go. These are not muscle guys here, they're muscle guys up here, right? And they calmly walk to a seat. Ding, 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 ding. They've only got 17 seconds to figure this whole thing out, right? Boom. Okay. Missile launch. Pshing, boom.
With stuff like that, and Donald Trump leading in the Republican polls, we thought we'd ask the question, what's wrong with Donald Trump? He's said strange things in the last few years, but it seems to have gotten worse in the last few weeks. Watch this 30-second clip closely and pay attention to what Donald Trump says about himself, but also what he says to the audience.
I said, is it tough? He said, yeah, it's a tough test. The first couple of questions are easy, like they'll have a lion, a giraffe, a whale, and a shark. And they'll say, which one's the lion, okay? There aren't too many people. And they laughed. Everyone said, oh, that's so easy. There's only about 2% of this room can do it, but I did it. I did it very easily. But I got mocked. They said, oh, that's so easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. Go home and try doing it, okay?
First of all, he's a presidential candidate who's having to justify his intelligence.
Yeah, it's a tough test.
But it doesn't end there, because he then goes on to insult his audience's intelligence.
There's only about 2% of this room can do it, but I did it.
And what's worse, there are members of the British establishment that think this guy should be back in power.
Andrea, are you a fan of Donald Trump?
I'd like to see him come back, Sophie, and I'd like to see Boris come back as well. A dynamic duo. And I think we'd be a safer place if Trump come back, actually looking at the situation with the Ukraine and Russia as well.
So I've broken this down into 3 parts. We're going to look at his words, we're going to look at him talking in tangents, and we're also going to look at him getting confused.
I know words, I have the best words. And to delegitimize heart, lung, and liver transplants. And his daughter Laura at a reception.
And we will restore on this planet peace through earth. I am the only candidate who can make this promise to you.
And we are reclaiming our noble heritage. Companies are really big beneficiaries. Patriotic citizens who want their families protected made a pivotal, really, and I mean this was pivotal, to fully reauthorize the 9/11 victims, the national humanitarian. He was awarded the Bronze Star and the Combat Infantryman Badge. Heroin alone, if you look at the heroin epidemic, last year alone, ICE officers ever foisted women's basketball national champions, House and Senate lawmakers advising lawmakers. Secretary Pompeo is here, Secretary of State. Mike Bolton, John Bolton is here. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Oman, UAE, Chile, but China's their supply chain is breaking up. We must seek real bipartisan solutions. As bad as it is, it meant something. The members of our armed forces, and you understand that very well, the members of our armed forces to immediately waive all applicable state taxes despite these obstacles. Karen, Americans of all walks of life rose up, and we used to have radio for years, radio in the invasion of Normandy and the liberation of Europe. I want to also thank the Minneapolis police. As Jack has said about the Battle of the Bulge, we just set another stock rocket. You saw that, right? The stock market on January 23rd. Venezuela's. I hope they now go and take a look at the oranges of the investigation, the beginnings. And vicious MS-3 gang members. You've really put a big investment in our country. We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple. More than 2,000 years ago, a brilliant star shone in the east. Wise men traveled far, far afield. And then they announced there was nobody's now. You know what? Our army manned the air. It ran the ramparts. It took over the airports. It did everything to improve this country, and you deserve a government. I have the best words. There's no better word than stupid.
And it seems people who follow Trump are suffering the same problems.
And I think we'd be a safer place if Trump come back.
Words are certainly an issue, but we could put that down to potentially him being quite tired. But what about tangents? Have a listen to how he goes from one topic to the other.
Fields and jungles of Vietnam. They delivered a swift and sweeping, sweeping. It was swift and it was sweeping like nobody's ever seen anything happen.
a victory in Operation Desert Storm. A lot of you were involved in that. A lot of you were involved. That was a quick one.
Within 16 seconds, Donald Trump goes from talking about the Vietnam War to Desert Storm, but there's nothing to connect the two. Watch the next clip and you'll see him do it again, but this time he starts off by talking about Medicare.
You know, I want to talk a little bit too about Social Security and Medicare, because that's something that's important to a lot of people. And Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley have both called for raising the retirement age and making major cuts to Social Security and Medicare benefits. And when you were president, you protected Social Security and Medicare for American seniors, and you promised to do so again in your second term. Tell us why that's so important to you.
First of all, you've earned it. I mean, they've earned it. They want to cut it, and they also want to, the Medicare, they want to cut that. And why are you doing this? We have more liquid gold right under our feet. We have so much wealth in this country, and we don't want to do it. We want to go to all electric cars so that we don't use our wealth. China has that kind of wealth because they have the battery wealth. But electric cars don't go far. They're very expensive, and they're going to all be made in China. That's why I think we had a poll just come out, and we're 11 points up in Michigan because the auto workers and, South Carolina way up to wherever you make autos, because the auto workers understand if you go all electric, you're making those cars in China. They're not going to be made here. They're going to be made in China. And in addition to that, you should be able to buy electric cars, but you have to buy gasoline, combustion. You have to buy anything you want. You shouldn't be restricting it to electric. You go to California, I was there this summer, and you have blackouts and brownouts all the time, and now they want all their cars to be all electric. The problem is, with the car, the batteries are somewhat expensive, but they're really, they can be very dangerous, you know that.
So he starts off talking about Medicare, goes on to gold, and then finishes off on cars. He's obviously trying to talk about how rich America is and how it could easily afford to pay for Social Security and Medicare. But of course, he isn't able to hold his train of thought, and he gets confused. And we see that more and more as he gets older, but we'll also see it in these clips.
Raised up those great skyscrapers, won 2 world wars. We won world wars out of forts. Fort Benning, Fort this, Fort that, many forts. They changed the name. We won wars out of these forts. They changed the name. They changed the name of the forts. A lot of people aren't too happy about that. Defeated, he said, unacceptable, yeah. No, they changed the name of a lot of our forts. We won 2 world wars out of a lot of these forts, and they changed the name. It's unbelievable.
Now, we could say that World War II was won by the soldiers, the generals, the logistics, the populations, the resistant fighters, the scientists. But no, he starts rabbiting on about forts. And despite what you've just heard, he does have a defense. He's been confused in the past, thinking he's running against Obama. Have a listen to this.
He got confused and said he was running against Obama. He never ran against Obama.
And we did with Obama. We won an election that everyone said couldn't be won.
Obama he doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, you mean President Biden?
Now watch his defense.
But I don't do it because what they do is, if I'm sarcastic, or a lot of times I'll say, and President Obama is doing a lousy job, meaning that Obama's running the show. They'll say, Donald Trump doesn't know who our president is. No. Because cognitively, I don't know if you saw, but a few months ago, I took a cognitive test. My doctor gave me. I said, give me a cognitive test just so we can, because you know what the standards were. And I aced it. I also took one when I was in the White House. No, I'll let you know when I go bad. I really think I'll be able to tell you, because someday we go bad. But, I've had, and they always say, like Haley, she talks about, we don't need 80-year-old. Well, I don't mind being 80, but I'm 77. That's a big difference.
Large numbers of people with dementia do struggle to be able to reconcile the fact that they've actually got the disease and even come up with very intelligent ways of mitigating the issues. And I'm not saying he has, but he has been given tests whilst in the White House. Watch this clip involving Trump talking about Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley, his running rival, and quite clearly confusing the two.
Last night, Trump is at a rally.
Nikki Haley
And he's going on and on mentioning me multiple times as to why I didn't handle January 6th better.
By the way, they never report the crowd on January 6th. You know, Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people. They don't want to talk about that.
I wasn't in office then. They're saying he got confused.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread. You have ID to buy a loaf of bread. I'm driving over a road where it's almost all paper. And, you know, you can see paper. I know paper. I know cans. But all the time now we see whales washing up on shore because of the wind. Our veterans don't have cell phones, do they?
He got confused.
You know, did you know they destroyed all of the information, all of the evidence, everything? Deleted and destroyed all of it. All of it. Because of lots of things like Nikki Haley.
And you're seeing Donald Trump increasingly get confused on the campaign trail. He thought Nikki Haley was Nancy Pelosi. That clip is brutal.
So before I show you some funny clips and further confusion, let's answer that question. What's wrong with Donald Trump? I'm not going to give a medical opinion, but it's quite clear to anyone watching he's getting confused and it's happening on a more regular basis, to the point where he can't even tell who his opponent is. This leads to all sorts of other questions and concerns about his mental health to be President of the United States. So I'll leave a question for you to put into the comments. What do you think's going on with Donald Trump?
And I took a cognitive exam.
I actually took one when I very recently when I was, you know, the radical left was saying, "Is he all there? Is he all there?" And I proved I was all there because I aced it. I aced the test. And he should take the same exact test, a very standard test. I took it at Walter Reed Medical Center in front of doctors, and they were very surprised. They said, that's an unbelievable thing. Rarely does anybody do what you just did. But he should take that same test. But
I said, doctor, give me anything you want. I want to take it. I think you actually, if you're running for president, I think you should be forced to take it. I would know when it's going bad. I would tell you, if it's going bad, I'll be the first to know. I feel that right now I'm sharper than I was 20 years ago, and I don't know why. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. How did you do that? I do it because I have like a good memory, because I'm cognitively there. That the poor guy doesn't know what the hell's happening. The whole world's talking about it. It's the level of stupidity is incredible. It's just incredible that he can frankly be even running anything. He can't put two sentences together. Like Nikki Haley.
Once again, thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who keep this channel going and growing. Even by clicking and watching this and getting to the end, you've done a fantastic job. If you liked it, make sure you press that subscribe button and leave a comment. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.